close my window here. I apologize guys for that noise. Okay, bring down the volume a little bit. Okay. I think we will begin now. I think actually let me wait one more minute, guys. I just wrote that in the chat. No, I already forgot it. Just one more minute, guys. Bear with me here. I just want everyone to get the notifications. So, since I just, we just turned live here on the channel. Just 1 minute, one more minute. Because I know sometimes the YouTube algorithm staggers the notifications for live streams. So, I just want to make sure everyone is notified that I am live. Right. Hey, do nothing. What's up? What's up, man? What's up? Alright, let's begin, guys. I think we waited long enough here. Okay. Alright, can everyone hear me correctly? You guys are just watching a blank screen of Bitcoin moving up and down, huh? Okie dokie. Alright, hopefully everyone has been having a great night so far. Hopefully you guys are enjoying watching the price action of Bitcoin with some nice music. But yeah, let's quickly get started here. So I strictly just want to focus on Bitcoin, but specifically the notoriously famous MicroStrategy, right? This is the the company led by Michael Saylor, right? So I first want to go off on on what this company actually does, right? So it's famously known to have transitioned from, I believe it was a traditional like software company that sold like enterprise software platforms, right, to other businesses. I believe it was a B2B business, if I'm not mistaken. So business to business, and it switched completely into a Bitcoin holdings company. So it's essentially what everyone likes to call these type of companies, a Bitcoin treasury company. Okay, so the fundamentals of the company drastically changed once we got that shift, this pivot in the business operations and just kind of how the entire company works. And that's what Michael Saylor intended to do when he pivoted the entire company into, again, a Bitcoin treasury company or Bitcoin holdings treasury company. Same thing, right? And it's kind of the quote-unquote leading. I don't really think there's a leading company that that's considered, the Bitcoin treasury companies out there. Although I guess you can say MicroStrategy is the premier #1 company that holds Bitcoin. I believe that's true. I don't think any other company doesn't have as much Bitcoin as MicroStrategy here. Let's see. Let me make sure I have the right numbers there. Let's see, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. So here's the very first fact here. Just making sure that I have my facts straight. MicroStrategy has about 843,000 to 847,000 Bitcoin. So individual Bitcoin. And I believe that's like almost 4 to 5% of all Bitcoin in circulation. or like the amount of Bitcoin that's ever existed, right? So that's a huge amount. So that's the reason why they're called a Bitcoin treasury company. So what does that mean for the actual publicly traded shares? Well, that also means that MicroStrategy will follow exactly what Bitcoin itself is doing. And if you look at Bitcoin and MicroStrategy side to side here in the most, well, let's just take a look at 2026, for example. Okay. Take a look at the daily time frame here. Okay, it looks very similar. Obviously, Bitcoin has a wider and more volatile action, but ever since 2026 began, we have a very similar price action here, right? We have this nice little base, breakout, and pullback, and base again. Right, same thing with Bitcoin: base, breakout, pullback, and base. So it's a very typical traditional cycle here, or phases, where we have the accumulation, right, and the breakout phase, pullback phase, and then accumulation again, right? So that's essentially what's happening here, where MicroStrategy is essentially mirroring what Bitcoin is doing, and that makes sense because, again, why? Because, well, their Bitcoin reserve represents around 4% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist, right? So 4 to 5%, as Michael Saylor continues to buy Bitcoin, continuously averaging down as well too, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so again, this company has a massive amount of Bitcoin. Now, the second thing regarding the cryptocurrency itself is that it has a Bitcoin yield. All right, so it's the company's own. I believe this is what I read from the website. It's a proprietary, right? It's their in-house proprietary metric called Bitcoin yield. It's basically measuring the percentage growth in the ratio of Bitcoin holdings to their diluted shares outstanding. Okay, it's a ratio, right, of their Bitcoin holdings to diluted shares outstanding. Okay, the shares outstanding. Okay, so basically, their goal is to grow this yield, right? It's a yield, right? It has to yield something, right? So they have to grow this yield, and what that essentially entails is that the company is successfully increasing the amount of Bitcoin backing each individual shares outstanding over time through smart equity and debt deployment. And so this is where things can get a little shaky there. So when it's considering the BTC or Bitcoin yield, Right? I'll just say BTC, and that's a lot easier and shorter to say, and everyone knows what BTC is, the acronym. So the BTC yield has gotten a lot of scrutiny, scrutiny over the past like 6 years. Okay, and the reason being is that they believe that Michael Saylor is kind of misusing company funds, and again, when it comes to that quote unquote smart equity allocation, as they described as a company, as to what they do, and the debt deployment, they're saying that this company can become a bit, at times, even over leveraged when they're focused on stuff like that deployment, and makes them too comfortable with that, right? But here's the thing. Okay, so when it comes to that, so now we're going to segue into that specific problem that people tend to see with this company. The company's actually, it's been able to, not, I wouldn't say smart, but they've been very proactive and in their management of that smart equity and debt deployment, especially when it comes to their capital structure. Okay, so this company has been lowering their long-term debt, right? And they do this by buying back convertible debt. Okay, if you guys don't know what convertible debt is, please look that up. It's an essential part. Well, you guys should, if you don't know anything about the balance sheet or even income statements, it's a good idea to try to get a good fundamental summary of what those things are and why that's important for every single publicly traded company. But so for MicroStrategy here, the long-term debt reductions through, for example, again, like buying back convertible debt, with having also a good amount of cash. So let me actually, since we're talking about this now, let me actually look at Koifin, just like we did on Monday with Broadcom, or ticker symbol AVGO. So we have okay, so we have Koifin here. Real quick, we'll take a look at this and take a look at my fundamental financials metrics. Okay, my little thing. So, okay, there we go. Okay, so when it comes to, so here, do you guys see this, guys? So this is where, again, like I said before, the debt allocation, debt deployment, and smart equity allocation, it's starting to look a little bit crazy because the total debt is very, very high. It's at 6.7 billion. But again, like I said, recently, in the most recently reported earnings as well, as I was saying a couple of seconds ago here, they do have a pretty good increase in cash. So there's a long-term strategy built here with the way that they've been proactively managing their capital structure, as I said a couple minutes ago, right? And when it comes to the balance sheet too. So the total cash and short-term investments has ballooned from late last year into this new year from, well, 54.28 million, so around 54.3 million to $2.3 billion, right? And now they're currently sitting at $2.5 billion. And obviously that's still nowhere close to their total debt. But guess what? In the 2 quarters that we've experienced here so far in this year for MicroStrategy, they've actually been able to reduce their total debt. So again, there is some very smart things that they're doing. The basic things that they need to regain control of having a balanced, well, I guess portfolio when you're considering the debt, the total debt that they have, and total cash and short-term investments, or even just long-term debt or long-term assets, right? So they are doing the things that are necessary to keep this company afloat. Is what I'm trying to tell you guys here, and they're essentially trying to revert there's a lot of criticism into this company, and specifically what Michael Saylor is doing too. So there's that, right? So if you've been following along, right, with the story here, the financial story here has been getting stronger, right? And obviously due to the increase in debt, right, the free cash flow has been negative multiple quarters at a time since 2024, back to back. The most recently reported free cash flow was negative again. Maybe in the next few quarters we might see a flip back to the positive. Who knows, right? But one thing that I don't really like is their gross profit margins have been declining. And even though this may just seem like a cyclical part of a story of this company, there has been an actual downtrend, right? People might be saying, you know, that this specifically because of the fact that they've been pouring so much money into the company, especially when it comes to buying Bitcoins, and that's kind of their main strategy, right? Not just a strategy as a Bitcoin treasury company or holdings company. There is quite a lot of money that they spend just buying Bitcoin alone, right? So there has to be some sort of return, but their overall profit, their margins haven't been too good the last couple of quarters, especially when we saw that pivot in 2023. Even though we've seen Bitcoin rising multiple times into new all-time highs in between 2023 all the way up into now. So that's interesting to see as well. So those are the fundamentals. Nothing really too big other than the fact that there's been a big pivot late last year and into this year with how they've been managing their funds, right? Their total cash on hand, their total debt, in their most recent quarterly earnings report, as seen right here, right? Okay, so they've been constantly missing this entire year, by the way, with their revenue and earnings estimates, right? There's a double loss in the most recently earnings report, but that's essentially what's going on here. Okay, so I will be looking at this again in the next quarterly earnings report, and hopefully the trend continues where they are able to increase their cash and short-term investments and consistently have a decrease in the total debt again, and possibly see a larger percentage decrease year over year of their debt, total debt. Okay, so with that being said, you know, they do still have, you know, their software company, their enterprise software company that they built in-house as well too. But you know, it's not doing too much anymore either, even though it is kind of still their main core business. Because again, this company was a software company, believe it or not. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I believe it's along the lines of an analytical software platform that they built. But they do have some, I would say, solid revenue. It's not huge, but overall, again, their overall profit margins have been going down though. So to be honest, what the money that they're making, the total revenue that they're making just simply from their enterprise software platform, not too important when this company especially has pivoted into a Bitcoin treasury company. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it when it comes to the overall fundamental picture of what Bitcoin, Michael Saylor has been doing with Bitcoin and adding it onto their balance sheet here, or just the overall company's financials, right? And obviously there's a lot at stake here because the company is completely reliant on how Bitcoin moves, which makes the company's share price so damn volatile, because again, it just mirrors what Bitcoin is doing. So here's the thing now, okay? So what I read recently from an article is that there's been an increase in massive amounts of accumulation of Bitcoin by Michael Saylor. And in the first half of 2026, he provided a SEC filing, okay? And he bought like 520 Bitcoin in June. So during the downturn here, right? So he was buying as Bitcoin was going down, right? Right here? Like right here, yeah. So when Bitcoin is down, which is great, right? And he bought around like over 500 Bitcoin, if I remember. That's around like $35 million. And his purchasing price, the average price was around like $65,000 to $67,000 per coin. So that's a pretty big accumulation. But obviously, there's that's completely outshined by the amount of total Bitcoin that they have in their holdings, which is again around nearly 850,000 Bitcoin. Right, I can just round up there. Okay, so that's amazing. So I think Michael Saylor is trying to maybe reach 1 million in Bitcoin. Who knows? That'll be insane. That's crazy amount of leverage in the sense that the company is completely reliant on Bitcoin's actions. Does that make sense, guys? Is that making sense for everyone? So hopefully this information is useful here, because again, a lot of people are always confused as to what MicroStrategy even does. So hopefully this is a pretty good information there. Okay. So again, this guy just continues to buy and buy and buy Bitcoin. Again, hopefully I'm not completely boring you guys with this fundamental analysis and just the overall outlook as to what the company is doing from a fundamental perspective. We'll be going towards the technical aspect soon too, but so you know, again, the capital structure is somewhat intuitive. They're not just buying Bitcoin recklessly. They are averaging down, which is not always a good sign, because again, they could be averaging down into a hole, and that'll make the company completely, well, they'll be in financial trouble, obviously, if that ever happens, if Bitcoin continues to go down. But again, just like what we saw with their total debt and total cash on hand, things are starting to turn around. They're trying to be more financially sound as a company, as a Bitcoin treasury holdings company, even though Bitcoin has been very volatile and obviously moving downward this entire year, right? So yeah, they're still they're utilizing the capital market conditions pretty well to their own advantage. I mean, you can bet that Michael Saylor and the management team, the upper management, are always constantly checking Bitcoin's price, doing technical analysis on it, doing the fundamental analysis on it. I know Michael Saylor loves to talk about the Bitcoin halving events as well, Bitcoin supply as well too. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the fundamental perspective. Let's take a look at the fun stuff. Take a look at the technical aspect of Bitcoin and MicroStrategy here. So let me first take a look at, well, I can just take a look at MicroStrategy because that's kind of the stock that I want to talk about tonight, since I do have an active position. So I will be revealing what that is too, guys. So stick with me to the end. The stream won't be too long. Okay. I love doing these very quick breakdowns of a single company here. So bear with me here. So MSTR has been basing here for quite some time after making a nice pivot in late June. By the end of June here, it has made a nice solid horizontal base bounce and support level at this $90 whole number level, and it's been a nice solid resistance level at 104. Okay, so there's two whole number levels here that you guys have to have on your own charts. Okay, so these are the two major magnet levels. Okay, so I make sure it's at least accurate here. Bam. Okay, let me make that red for this one and green. Okay, perfect. Now, in between these two levels, we have a magnet level at 100. It's a triple digit share price number. Okay, and today we got pretty close to it. Okay, and we've been basing on and off in between these two levels, and right now we're in the midpoint of this range here, around, as we kind of move between 95 to around 98-ish, and it's tightening up underneath this magnet level of 100, this triple digit golden number that every company will always love to achieve, right? So yeah, so MSTR, I'm not really liking the fact that if you take a look at my SMAs, my daily 10, this red line, and my daily 21, this light blue line, the red one is slightly curling down and it's still below the daily 21 SMA. However, again, I'm pretty optimistic about this one because I like how it's basing here, right? And if you take a look at how the overall crypto markets have been moving, they haven't really followed up or caught up with what the equity markets have done. And usually when equity markets have a completely impulsive breakout to new all-time highs, we tend to see crypto markets following suit, right? So it has a laggard effect on the crypto markets whenever equity markets decide to move first, right? Because as I've been saying for almost the entirety of this year, or even just most recently, guys, in June, Bitcoin was a nice leading sentiment indicator, right? And we saw Bitcoin actually moving down fast, right? Crashing to new lows. First, before equity markets began to pull back as well in the first week of June. And if you guys see here in Bitcoin, we Bitcoin began a new downtrend in the middle of May. So right here, this is kind of the start of the new downtrend as sellers accumulated here right at $77,100 here for Bitcoin. And eventually we saw that nice big push downward and big pullback, this impulsive reaction to the downside as we continued into early June. And also again, that's when we saw the equity markets moving downward as well at the beginning of June too. Does that make sense, guys? So again, now we're seeing kind of a pivot here, a switch in how Bitcoin and even just the overall equity markets move, right? Because if equity markets have broken to the upside into a new uptrend, well, I would expect the crypto markets to do the same too, because if the overall AI trade is getting a lot of steam, then at some point that momentum and that relative strength will transfer over to the next leveraged trade, which is, well, the next most leveraged trade, which will be crypto, right? Maybe quantum, but quantum trade, but crypto will be next, right? So I'm really loving how Bitcoin has moving here. If we take a look at the weekly time frame, it's been sitting right at the the weekly 200 SMA and basing really well. So I would really love to see a nice big push up higher, maybe back towards $67,500, which is kind of the rough area that we saw pivots last time. But at the same time, that would also mean if you do retest $67,500, that'll be a new higher high, because it'll be over this previous high of $67,253. I'm saying that wrong. $67,253. Okay, that'll be a higher high if we decide to retest $67,500. And at that point, if we push up higher to that level, that whole number level, I would expect the price to retest my weekly 21 SMA. And again, we've been basing since we saw the initial pullback in June. So I really like how it's acting here. It's also holding the previous accumulation area. There's a nice demand area that we saw, and also what I noted as well back in 2024, and we got that nice big flag push up higher into Q4 here for Bitcoin. So this is a great catch here as well. I remember this one. So hopefully we can see some further good hold of Bitcoin bulls here around this weekly 200 SMA as we've been seeing for the last 2 months. And that will also translate into how MSTR decides to move as well. So let me now transition to the last part of the stream tonight, and I want to show you guys the crazy amount of buying that went into MSTR here, because it's kind of crazy. I kid you not here. So if Bitcoin is expected to rise up higher in the next couple of weeks or even next couple of months, I expect MSTR to do the same, right? Because it mirrors how Bitcoin moves. So what we have here is the October 16th expiration date, or this is the OPEX date for this month of October. And this 130 strike call contract has received a lot of open interest. So this open interest was translated from yesterday's buying. And I'm really interested to see if today's volume here of 2,205 contracts is also translated over to tomorrow's OI. So maybe, let's just say 2,000 contracts are held overnight and into tomorrow's OI. So that'll make it around 15,000 contracts. So this is one of the most amount of contracts that we see on this entire options chain on this specific expiration date, right? Even compared to puts, right? So if Bitcoin gets to around, like I said, $67,500 or maybe even higher, right? Or even just at $67,500, I expect MSTR to at least, I would say around at least hit, like 105, right? At least hit over this or break out over this 104 resistance level. Okay. Hey, what's up, guys? I see more people joining in. So you guys missed out on a bulk of the stream here. So make sure you guys watch the replay. I've been live for about 35 minutes here, so make sure you guys watch the replay. I talk about some very crucial things about this overall company from a fundamental perspective, and I really think that you guys should understand that. Not understand, but you guys should watch it so that you guys understand the full picture of what MicroStrategy does and what its position is currently regarding it as a company, as a Bitcoin treasury company, right? So again, please watch the replay. I do believe I do a pretty good job of breaking down what this company does. So please watch the replay, okay? If you guys are just joining in, I highly recommend you guys do that, please, before the market opens tomorrow. Okay, so as I was saying here, I am currently in this contract as it is with apparently hundreds of other people. Maybe it's just one big trader who bought a bunch this week or yesterday, because the OI is still the same from yesterday. Yeah, well, not the same, but the buying volume that we saw was translated over to today's OI, which is I think it was about like 10,000, like 10,500 contracts, which is a huge, big amount. And so that's why today's OI increased to 13,242 contracts. So please take a look at this. Okay, now there's another contract, oops, that I want to go over. Let me see. Let me make sure I remember exactly what it is. I think I have it written down here somewhere. Oh yeah. So for puts here, okay, what's also interesting is that the 90 strike call contract, okay, do you guys see this big OI in volume? Oh, excuse me, this big OI, right? So this open interest is mostly put sales, right? So someone sold the 90 strike put contract, and that means that that person or that trader is expecting a floor at $90. And guess what? Look at a technical chart, right? We have a solid support level at $90. Right? I love when the technicals align with what the option flows are saying, right? So if 90 is being held as support, along with the fact that there's someone who is, well, very deep into these put contracts that are sold, right? So if you guys remember, again, put contracts that are sold, it means that this person is expecting the underlying share price to stay above the strike price into the expiration date, because they're trying to collect the option premium, right? So they have to see the underlying share price staying above the strike price here at the put contract, which means that the support level should be, held by the underlying share price, and that's what we've been seeing so far. So this trader has sold 5,090 strike put contracts. Okay, so I'm looking at this contract, this put contract, okay? And then I'm also looking at this 130 strike call contract, which I'm already in as well, okay, today, okay? So I'm looking to scale in this one as well. I'll be willing to scale in this one if we start to move in the right way. And what do I mean by that? Well, I expect Bitcoin to move in the right way too, okay? So hopefully this is a nice trend break for Bitcoin, and we can officially see kind of more volume and more momentum coming back into the crypto markets as the overall equity markets start to eventually cool off, right? And the leverage trade that crypto markets are usually influenced by can be heavily influenced by leveraged buys and bids from all traders worldwide, and we can see a nice big push up higher. All right, that is my goal for Bitcoin here, because that'll be also happening for MicroStrategy here, or MSTR. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, now if MSTR is too expensive to play, guys, MSTU has been doing pretty well as well, because, well, it follows MSTR. This is the 2 times leveraged MSTR ETF. And recently, you guys see this, right? The entirety of the base, since we bottomed out in June lows, we've been seeing a massive amount of volume. But we tend to see this on leveraged ETFs, especially as we head into another reverse stock split here, which again, that usually happens. There's a dilution of shares as well during these reverse stock splits. And it makes sense that we're seeing a big amount of accumulation, because Bitcoin itself is in an accumulation phase, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this stream. It may have been a bit short, but we've been live for almost 40 minutes here. Hopefully this is a great breakdown on MicroStrategy and how MicroStrategy works with Bitcoin here, and why it mirrors Bitcoin's price action, and why that could be a problem in the future, or maybe not, because they've been having a very smart capital structure that they've been following since late last year, and it has been somewhat successful, I would say, as I've described earlier in the stream when I showed you guys my fundamental metrics, the quick snapshot of what I like to use on koifin.com. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I will see you guys next week on Monday. If anyone's just joining us now, make sure you guys hit that like button down below. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. And please watch the replay. All right, the information that I gave in the first half of the stream is very, very important. Muy importante. Okay? I had to say it in Spanish because it's very, very important. Okay? So, yeah. I'll see you guys next Monday at the same time at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your night and good luck tomorrow.